Switch 2 launch day was kinda wild. By that I mean it was way easier to get my hands on one of these than I expected. I literally just went to a local GameStop in Manhattan, stood in line for about 30 minutes, and got a Switch 2 bundle. No pre-order, no express pass, or hidden loops to jump through. I was genuinely shocked. All that's to say, the first thing I did when I got home was test out Bayonetta 3. I know, I'm obsessed, but I was genuinely curious to see how backwards compatibility worked with native Switch 1 games that struggled to run solely based on hardware limitations rather than bad coding. I'm looking at you, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but don't worry, we're gonna talk about you soon enough. But Bayonetta 3 was genuinely a supremely ambitious game that was held back by its hardware. And you want proof for that? Look no further than how it runs on Switch 2. Now, Bayonetta 3 is living proof that if you have a Switch 1 game that only had frame drops because it was too taxing for Switch 1 to handle, the Switch 2 will fix that with no update needed. Bayonetta 3 didn't receive a patch or an update or even a Switch 2 edition. Well, hopefully there's a yet to be added there. It should get a Switch 2 edition, but we'll come back around to that later. Yeah, this is essentially vanilla Bayo 3 running on Switch 2, and there are pretty much zero frame drops. I even tested the most taxing portions of the game, and I didn't experience any lagging. It's buttery smooth for the first time ever. Now, Bayonetta 3 has a 60 frame target for gameplay and a 30 frame target for cutscenes. Now that that target is being reached consistently, a few other aspects of the game that could have been viewed as glitches have been ironed out. A huge example of this is an issue where wearing certain outfits in the game would cause huge audio desyncs. The most notable offender for this glitch, so to speak, is Bayonetta's original outfit from Bayonetta 1. And I'm honestly surprised I hadn't seen more people discussing this, because I know for a fact it's a wildly popular design for her. I mean, it's her classic, her original design. It almost feels like a crime that platinumgames let her original outfit cause such a visual impairment. But yeah, this outfit caused the largest audio desync in the game for cutscenes. I had a feeling as to why this was happening, but running the game on Switch 2 only confirmed my suspicions. Let me walk you through this. In Bayonetta 1 and 2, the audio and visuals of the game were essentially tied together. In those games, if the visuals lagged at all, so too did the audio. Well, at least the voices of the characters. In Bayonetta 3, however, audio and visuals operate completely independent of each other. That means that if, for whatever reason, the visuals drop frames, a desync between them and the audio would occur. This is likely because of Bayonetta 3 being the first game in the series to be coded in platinumgames' newer custom engine, the same one that they made Astral Chain in. Now, personally, I think that was a bad move from the beginning. That's a whole nother conversation for another day, but a great example that you can get right now of what I mean really is just all these visual issues with Bayonetta 3. The audio desyncs, the weirdly stiff facial animations, the inferior visuals that scream for a coat of cell shading to be overlaid on them. This engine worked well for Astral Chain, well enough, but I don't think it's great for the Bayonetta series. So why then did certain costumes lag cutscenes in Bayonetta 3? Specifically, the Bayonetta 1 outfit. Well, there were simply just more physics and movement involved with having that outfit on screen. Bayonetta's arm drapes are the prime suspect here. They have crazy physics, and the game seems to constantly have wind blowing them around everywhere in every scene she's in. Even when they're not moving with the wind, you can see up close that her drapes are constantly moving just in general. This is true for all her outfits. You can see this on her skirt in the Bayonetta 3 costume, for example, but none have more draped than this one. Couple that with how lightweight platinumgames made these drapes in Bayo 3 compared to 1 and 2, and all that movement costed the Switch more than it could handle. It was already struggling to run all the ambitious gameplay options the game has to offer with the decently high fidelity graphics the game still managed to accomplish for the hardware. It was a recipe for lag. So when the audio continued to push forward at its usual pace, the longer Bayonetta was shown on screen in this outfit, the larger the desync would become. It is crazy to me that even with a 30 FPS target, the Switch 1 couldn't render this properly, but either way, when playing with this outfit on the Switch 2, guess what? There's no more audio desync. So not only do we get smoother gameplay, we also get fully functioning cutscenes to boot now, for every outfit. I even tested what's arguably the most visually taxing portion of the game, the rooftop spider crawling segment. On the Switch 1, this entire sequence chugged at almost every turn while we crawled the roofs, while we watched iridescent splash through the clouds of erasure, and while the objects and platforms around us broke apart. It was a mess. Now, on Switch 2, the only slowdown we see in any of these occurrences are the intentional ones, like slow-mo. The game stays consistent now. No frames dropped even in these hectic segments. It's a breath of fresh air. But all this isn't to say that Bayonetta 3 doesn't need an official update or Switch 2 edition from Platinum Games. On a purely technical level, ignoring all the changes, fixes, and additions the story desperately needs, or even the additional content like more costumes and chapters, Bayonetta 3 is still a blurry mess to look at, even on Switch 2. It's even worse when playing the title handheld on Switch 2, actually. Portable mode for Bayonetta 3 can run as low as 480p. Seeing that blown up on Switch 2's huge 8-inch screen is murderous to look at. Seriously, I cannot recommend it. Your eyes will literally bleed. It's so bad. This is a game that deserves to be supported and updated by Platinum Games. Even with all our complaints, we all still agreed to vote for it as the best action game for 2022. And it won. If Platinum Games updates and even fixes the elements we've been vocal about, I can guarantee that we will all purchase that updated version. The Bayonetta fanbase is highly dedicated to the series and character. We may be having these endless discourses, especially negative ones regarding Bayonetta 3, but that's because we love the franchise and, as I mentioned, the character. We want to see it all thrive. We want to support it. We want more of it. Platinum Games just has to continue to deliver, and ideally not make such questionable decisions again. Specifically with the story, as we all been saying. But fixing these issues with an update, patch, or a Switch 2 edition is a path forward to a mutually beneficial relationship between consumer and developer. So, Platinum Games, let's make it happen. And for all of you in the audience, were there more improvements that you all noticed regarding Bayonetta 3 on Switch 2? And what would you like to see from a properly updated version of that game? Comment it all down below so we can discuss it. Afterwards, check out more of my videos, like this one here, where I plead with Platinum Games more as to why we need a Switch 2 edition of Bayonetta 3, and what it could and should look like. If you like what I do and want your name featured at the end of all of my videos, feel free to join my Patreon with the link in front of you and in the description. Or become a channel member right here on YouTube. I've been johtojonny, and I'll catch you all there.